What's going on, everybody? This is Shok, and this is a video response to the Truth Be Told show. For those of you who may have been here for a long time, you might also know him as The Truth Set You Free. He recently came back into the community with the announcement of the PS4, and basically he's been doing this back and forth with Trey regarding the next generation of leaps. And I was going to stay out of it, outside of comments, of course, but I commented on his last video and pretty much, called him out on the fact that he was using purely RAM to basically say, oh look, the leap between this gen, last gen and this gen is the same between the 6th and the 7th and the 5th and the 6th, which is of course completely silly because you're just using RAM. And he states in his latest video, he knows RAM isn't everything, but why say that but then do it anyways? That really doesn't make any sense to me. But he mentioned me in his latest video because of what I said in the comment section. I pretty much called him out because in the other video I said, Truth, the fact that you're not using actual games to prove the next generation leap shows you how small the next generation leap is. You see what I'm saying? But in his latest video he had this to say.
What number should I be using? You tell me. You go ahead and give me the numbers for PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. Then give me that same number for Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii. And then provide me that same number for PS4, Xbox 360, and the Wii U. And then we'll talk. And then tell me how everything is so drastically different from the PS2 era to the PS3 era compared to the PS3 to PS4.
So I'm going to do exactly that, Truth. I'm going to use numbers. You're saying numbers are the end-all be-all, which in a lot of cases they are. So going with your standards, your logic, I'm using number here. It's more numbers than just RAM. And I will have the links to this information down below in the description. So this video cannot be denied. This video is 100% factual. But before I get into it, one more thing. I'm speaking for myself here. I don't know about Trey. I will let Trey defend himself. Guys, this has nothing to do with the Wii U. This has nothing to do with the Wii U. Anybody who is not a dumbass knows I am not a Nintendo. What is the company I defend most on my channel? Yes, it's Nintendo, but at the same time, what is the company I bash most on my channel? It is Nintendo. I have no problem admitting Nintendo's faults. I'm pretty much the only Nintendo fan in this community who actually does exactly that. You see what I'm saying? Guys, I am not one of these Xbox who are defending the DRM. I'm not one of these Sony guys who was defending, Sony's takeaway feature, whatever, right? I'm not on that level. I am a Nintendo fan, okay? I do not have an emotional attachment to pieces of plastic like some of you out there watching this video do. I do not lose sleep. I do not get mad over plastic. And this isn't an angry video response. While I'm at it, I'll go ahead and say that it's not an angry video response. I appreciate the fact that me and Truth were able to just have a video game discussion. Now, of course, he's kind of insinuated that I'm a Nintendo and whatnot, but for the most part, it's been a calm video game discussion with no insults. So to him, I say thank you for that, and I appreciate that. But this has nothing to do with the Wii U, people. This has to do with you guys saying I'm wrong, and I'm defending my stance. And to further prove this, the first video I did talking about the next generation leap between this gen and this upcoming completed gen, the first video I did about this was May 2012, guys. Back in May 2012, we didn't have jack shit worth of information regarding any of the three consoles. See what I'm saying? So how am I going to damage control for something that we had literally 0% of information about? Exactly. Anyways, let's finally get into it now that that's out the way. Now, just looking at the raw numbers here, you can see straight off the bat, I don't even have to explain any of this. Truth is flat out wrong. The leap between the PS3 and the PS4 is nowhere close to the Xbox and PS3 and the N64 to the Xbox. Now notice, I've taken the strongest systems of their respective generations and I compare it to the strongest systems of the next generation. So that way I'm not comparing, the weakest of current to the weakest to next, so that there's a bigger gap. You know, I made it fair in your guys' favor. See what I'm saying? So you guys have nothing to say to me when it comes to these comparisons. The blue here, anything marked in blue, these are things that you know, I have no confirmation of, whatever. But I will have the links to all this info down below in the description. And yes, you cannot compare raw numbers, but in this case, there are architectural advantages and changes between every gen. So for the sake of simplicity, we can go ahead and just do, you know, just the raw number comparison. Because you could say, oh, well, yeah, that's a 10 times speed right here between the Xbox and the PS3. But, you know, the PS3 is the cell. But at the same time, you know, the Xbox is using the Pentium 3, which of course is alien technology compared to the N64. You see what I'm saying? But look at here, we got a 7.8 times increase on top of the architectural, you know, design benefits. This 20 million right here, this is the minimum I was able to find. I was only able to find one guy who was pretty tech savvy, just who said that on the CPU, as far as he can tell, it has 20 million at the bare minimum. He can't discover the rest of it, so that's not really a solidified figure, but I'll give this one to you guys. 4.3 times increase, right? FOPS performance for the CPU right here, 125. And notice, truth, I have more than just RAM here. I got it all, right? 125 MIPS, that's instructions per second. The Xbox had 1 trillion MIPS, which is an 8 billion times increase. GPU speed 4 times on top of course, architectural, you know, benefit and design. 705 times increase over the polygons per second performance. Now let me bust open my calculator and make sure that is correct, because that seems a little too crazy to be true. So let's do 116 million. That is 6 zeros divided by 160,000. That equals, oh, 725. That's 725, excuse me. That's 725. That's huge. Memory 16 times increase. System bandwidth, this isn't the actual overall system bandwidth. What this is actually the RAM bandwidth. So, and that's a 13 times increase. Now all I gotta do is just compare the gaps. I have the difference columns here, have it all laid out for you guys in black and white. Can't be denied, can't be refuted. It's obvious that the leap between the PS4 and the PS3 is the smallest leap we've at least had since the 3D era. Now, I didn't go all the way back into NES to SNES because, you know, that's just too much, and I wasn't around for that, you know, leap or that gap or whatever, and I don't know jack shit about the hardware of those consoles back in the day, so I'm not going to talk about those things, you know what I'm saying, because I don't know about them, so I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about the ones in recent times, the ones I'm actually familiar with, the ones I actually know what I'm talking about. So yeah, let's go over to the Xbox and PS3, right? 10 times increase in the CPU speed, of course, also in combination with architectural advantages. 23 times increase in transistors, and transistors don't really mean power, but you know, pretty much if you get an increase in power, chances are, you know, you're going to get an increase in transistors. Flops performance, a 37.5 times flops performance. That is compared to the 8 times difference the PS3 has between the PS4. And get this, this is just the Xbox, the original Xbox's CPU flops. I didn't even include the GPU flops, right? Oh, no, excuse me, right here, PS3. The PS3 is just the CPU flops right here. So I didn't even include the GPU flop. So actually, I'm helping you guys out. You know, that's working in the PS4's favor right there. GPU speed 1.5 times. You know, that really doesn't mean much because, of course, the PS4 is using a GPU, which is, of course, utterly wipes the floor with the regular GPUs the PS3 and 360 used back in the day. Couldn't get any official confirmation of the poly count with the PS4, although I do have this article here. Where is it at? Stating that it's doing an analysis, and I'll have a link to this. It says this approach to the PS4 may disappoint those who value their polygon counts above all else. So according to this analysis in this article, it's not going to be this polygon beast. Now, of course, the polygon count's going to be impressive. It's going to be nice, but it's not going to be beastly. But that's all the information we have regarding the polygon counts in general. But at the end of the day, that really doesn't mean much because that's just one site's analysis. But I'm just giving, some kind of, some kind of freaking, something, Moving on. Now, let's talk about the RAM here, right? Now, Truth said he's done it twice now. Look, it's the same leap because it's the same 16 times multiplier between each gen, right? False. False, Truth. Because yes, while 8 gigs is 16 times the 512 MB, guess what? All that 8 gigs is not dedicated to games. So that's not a 16 times multiplier, and that's where you fell flat on your face completely. Because all the 8 gigs is not dedicated to games. Now, we don't know how much is dedicated to the operating system. The first information we got about it was a rumor that it was 1 gig, but even if it is that 1 gig rumor dedicated to the OS, even that 1 gig will throw your argument off completely, and even though RAM increase will be smaller than the previous gens. But for all we know, it could take up 3 gigs, just like the Xbox One. For all we know, it could take up 2.5, 2, whatever. Either way, all that memory is not dedicated to games. Plain and simple. Video RAM has none because it's all unified RAM. And then system bandwidth is 176 gigabits per second, which is a 7 times increase compared to the 8 times increase we had between the 6th and 7th gen, and then the 5th and 6th with 13 times. So Truth, I gave you numbers. I played your specs game. Okay, I called you out saying, Truth, you're not giving games. You're not even using games for your argument. So that's proof of how small the leap is itself. And then I had people in the comments say, well, how good a game looks graphically, that's opinionated. True. Okay, true. Although you will be hard pressed to say that the leap between Shadowfall and Killzone 3 is the same leap between Killzone 1 and Killzone 2. I mean, come on, people. And like Truth, and I said that to Truth, and his quote unquote rebuttal to that is, oh, well, that's a 5-year development gap as opposed to a 2-year. Okay, firstly, Truth, Shadowfall was being worked. They didn't start Shadowfall after Killzone 3 was completely done. They didn't have to do that because Killzone 3 used a lot of resources that Killzone 2 had. That's why Killzone 3 wasn't really a huge leap over Killzone 2, because all they did was recycle their resources, make them a little bit prettier, and polish them, right? They already had some people working on Shadowfall. 2, when Shadowfall first got shown, Guerrilla Games said themselves that the game was in development for over 3 years already? And then 3, this is the PS4. This is the most easiest system to develop for in gaming history, dramatically cutting down development time. So your whole, Killzone 2 had a 5-year gap in development as opposed to Shadowfall's 2-year gap in between Shadowfall and Killzone 3, invalid. Because this is the fastest, easiest, most accessible system to develop for, dramatically reducing dev time, and Guerrilla Games already said themselves the game's been worked on for 3 years now. You have no argument, you're exposed, and by you saying that, oh, we'll look at the development time between the two, that's you right there admitting what I was saying is true, that the gap between Shadowfall and Killzone 3 is minuscule between the gap between Killzone 1 and Killzone 2. You're admitting that by saying, oh, well, of course, look at the dev cycles, right? That's you admitting it. So that cannot be denied. So I gave numbers. You're not using games. You can't use games. You know you can't use games. And that's why you told me in the comment section, right? Oh, we gotta wait for the systems to come out. It's not even out. Truth. When in the history of forever have we had to wait to see the next generation leap? If it's so big, we would see it now. When we saw Mario 64 before the N64 came out, we didn't need to wait for the system to come out. When we saw that Link and Ganondorf tech demo that Nintendo showed with the GameCube, we saw that then and there. When we saw Mario Sunshine, we didn't have to wait for that to come out. You see what I'm saying? We didn't have to wait. when we saw, Pikmin 1, all the other, near launch GameCube games, Smash Bros. Melee, we didn't have to wait to get our hands on those games to see the next generation leak. Same goes for the Xbox and the PS3. We didn't have to wait to see Cameo in person. We didn't have to wait to see Perfect Dark in person. We saw those leaps from the get-go. Now, just to clarify, just in case anybody out there still doesn't get it, I am not saying there's no leap between the PS3 and the PS4. Trey's not saying that. We're not saying there is no leap. We're not saying the leap is small as shit. We're not necessarily saying that. We're saying in comparison to the previous leaps, it's pretty small, guys. And it's the smallest leap we've had at least since the 3D era. And I've proven this. And the games prove it themselves. I mean, we're still getting 720p 30 frames per second games on these next gen consoles. We still can't even get 1080p 60 frames per second standard. Now, yes, we will, most likely get that in the future. That will become a standard. But the fact that they're not doing this at launch tells you something about their power. Because if they were more powerful, if they're up to your guys' expectations, you guys were expecting, in the beginning, oh, it's going to be more powerful than PCs, then these games would be coming out the gate 1080p at 60 frames per second if they were as powerful as you guys used to make it out to be. You see what I'm saying? Not to mention that the PS4 and the Xbox One, like I said before, are trying to emulate PC architecture. So they're very straightforward systems to develop for. So the fact that we're not getting 1080p 60 frames per second standard right now, it's kind of telling, because these are very straightforward, easy systems to develop for, with a buttload of RAM, x86 architecture, and some GPUs, right? So that's it for this video. I played your specs games. I went on your level, your field, and you still lost. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to touch up this 5 billion. This is what 5 billion is what Microsoft says the Xbox One has. So that's why I have the question mark next to this 5 billion. But even then, the increase, still not as big as the 23 times. But of course, transistors really doesn't mean much. So I mean, this whole row doesn't mean much anyways. But Microsoft is claiming 5 billion, and we know Microsoft likes to inflate things, so it could be smaller. But whatever. But that's it for this video. I rambled on long enough. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'll see you fools later. Peace.